Welcome to the Growth Ventures Podcast, the go-to platform for entrepreneurs, innovators, and changemakers. I'm your host, Hamlet Azarian. In this podcast, we delve into the world of business, technology, and innovation. We bring you conversations with industry leaders, disruptors, and visionaries who are shaping the future and making a difference. So whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, a seasoned business owner, or simply a curious listener, join us on the journey of learning and growth. Welcome to the Growth Ventures Podcast. And now, let's delve into today's episode. Hello, everyone. I wanted to thank our fabulous guest, Ashot Arzumanyan. He is here from SmartGateVC. He is an early stage and pre-seed investor in some of the more notable startups that have come out of the Armenia ecosystem. I'm really excited to have him on today, as we'll get a chance to delve a little bit into his past, talk a little bit about that, then go into the present and hopefully highlight somewhere he thinks the future will go. But more importantly, we're going to get a little bit into pre-seed startups in AI, SaaS, IoT, and Biotech, some of the areas that Smartgate has invested in. Ashot, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Hamlet.
Of course. So can you tell me a little bit about, some of the challenges you see or you've come across as an early stage investor, and particularly investing in startups out of Armenia?
So maybe a bit of quick background, how we invest and where we invest, gives a bit of a context. So we invest pre-seed, so really very, very early on, usually being the first ticket in companies that are science-driven or engineering-driven, so with products that are very difficult to replicate, possibly with some IP, really hard lines of codes. But then the challenge here is there were the multiple challenges actually here. It's not just one. So first of all, as you all know, and we work together a lot with many of the companies, when you deal with tech people think that technology is what makes a company.
If you build it, if you build this amazing product, they will all show up.
But then the problem is that it's not about only technology. There is also an execution part of it. And execution and technology are not additive. So if you have very good technology and bad execution, they multiply each other. And if one is zero, then the total is zero. And if two are great, then the total is a very big number. And that's the number one challenge to kind of when you work with engineering and science-driven people, to kind of get them to this understanding that there is more than what they have, this aha moment when something works magically. It doesn't yet mean that you have a company. It means you are onto something, but that means it's just the start. And basically working with these companies and helping them on the strategy, on the business side, as well as some of the technology side is one of the key things that we work on. And we invest first our time. So much before our money, we invest our time in the teams.
That's really important, right? Like, especially at this early stage, particularly in deep tech and science, where they might have the idea, but they don't necessarily know how to turn it into a business or what the value proposition for the business might be. And then on top of that, how to validate this idea. So you guys come in before you even put any capital in and you start working with them?
Yeah, the work usually starts before any capital, and the capital comes at the point when we all know we're on the same page about the milestones, what we want to achieve with the money, and where we want to be in 6, 12, 18 months, depending on the company's strategy, etc. So yeah, and the challenge here is, as an investor, the challenge here is to make right bets that early. If you look at the landscape, usually venture capital doesn't come that early. Startups. The tendency is to kind of raise a bigger fund and invest at later stages when it's like more predictable. You have some cash flows, you have some product market fit indicators, etc. At that very beginning, all you have to assess is basically people, their capability. And so that's why we also say that we invest in superhero teams, capable, unstoppable, and unbreakable. Even though this is in parallel with the thesis of companies being SaaS driven and or engineering driven.
But that's amazing. Like, so you're really investing in the person and the group, not necessarily what the business is, but who they are and what their potential is, right? Is that a fair statement?
Because never ever the initial plan worked.
Right.
So things evolve. As long as you meet your customers, the first customer feedback, things change a lot.
But how do you identify?
So yeah,
like how do you know that? Well, this team is a superhero team. How are you able to identify them?
We go to a very high bridge and jump.
You're like, please.
But if jokes aside, so basically, what you do is evaluating people over some time and looking for indicators of, let's say, exponential growth. If you work with people over time, you can basically see if this can lead to something which you can see and others can't see yet. So that's the
early stage when you're working with them. This is before the capital. They're at a certain place in their entrepreneur journey, and along with the coaching and the feedback and the things that they do to move their vision or their business to life, you're able to evaluate where they were in day one, where are they in day 10, where are they in day 20, or whatever it might be. You can see the growth in not just the person, the team, the vision, all of that. And that's enough of an indicator for you to believe that they can execute. Is that a fair assessment, or?
Yeah, so that's an important part of indicator. Of course, this cannot be without, like, if you do something in deep tech, or deep tech is a bit very, very high threshold, let's say, in advanced companies, because not all the companies we invest are really deep tech, but they are really advanced. So in terms of technology, I think so basically, if you do some advanced product, you need to have very good knowledge and expertise in the technology that you are building. So you can't just come out of let's say some business world or some other place and really be able to build some very advanced network infrastructure.
Right.
It doesn't work like that. So you have to be part of that industry. You need to feel the pain of the industry, and you need to understand ins and outs of it, both technically and business-wise.
Got it. Can you give us some examples? Can you give us some examples of some investments that you saw this journey? Here the founder was, and then you saw their transition of growth, and you guys invested and where they are today.
Yeah, so it's really the thing is the early indicators are not so apparent. So if you say, like, okay, look, this is where they were, and then they got here, and we saw the great progress, and then we invested. Like it doesn't work like that. If it was like that, then everyone would invest very early All right. So you see very small indicators like biomarkers, and then you take it basically from there. So yeah. The reality is that let's say you meet the founder at some point, and then you meet the next time, and you see that whatever you were talking about, there was some homework done. There is some progress there. It's like always like the ground is burning under the feet. It's not like there's sense of urgency, and there is some constant progress happening. So these are kind of indicators of this thing will get there, because imagine it's just a few people with some bright idea and some goals, but like to disrupt the whole industry.
Right.
Seriously, and if you want to take this serious, then there should be exponential growth. There is no way to achieve that linear, and you have to look for this markers of exponential growth.
Amazing. So let's change the topic a little bit, and let's kind of talk about some investments you guys did at Smartgate. And can you kind of talk to me a little bit about some of the initial Fund 1 investments that have progressed, and what do you think has led them to become successful?
So I think we have a few companies that we can probably say that are leading the edge in terms of technology, not yet business-wise, but at least on technology side or globally. So, for instance, CRISP, which is a background noise cancellation technology. I think already like it's 5 years, no one, either Google nor anyone else, beat them on the quality of noise cancellation. But the technology was the window they used, like the window of opportunity they used to build a great product. So basically, which is in voice productivity, communication productivity, which has now more features, and even more features are coming. Then another company, let's say Smartgate.
That's the note here. You invested them pre-COVID, before Zoom meetings and video conferencing and all of it became the norm. Right? You saw the
all our companies, we were usually, except for CRISP, which is the first deal in our first fund, and we basically signed that we are investing even before we had the cash on our bank accounts, like, because we were fully confident in the team and what's going to happen. Apart from that, usually we're the first tickets in the companies. We literally incorporated almost all of the companies.
Amazing.
Together. So yeah. So now, so I was talking about Smartgate, which is leading computer vision technology. Model Front, which is leading in, featured by Gartner, etc., in machine translation. Not the translation itself, by the way. That's a very interesting thing. It will tell where the leading translation tech from Google, Microsoft, and others fails, and where exactly you need human review. So, because like human review is the most expensive thing in this industry, and humans usually do the translation with, let's say, Google Translate, and then just proofread. So they will tell exactly which part needs human proofreading or editing to make it look the best. And they are working with big multinational brands, because whoever has a lot of content in different localizations. Yeah, so another company is Biosim, which is like a whole other story. It's in computational drug discovery, and the founder is world-leading professor in computational chemistry at the University of Maryland. And so it's computational focus on solving some of the world's like top challenges in biology.
Yeah.
And if things go as planned, this can be really, really very huge with its impact on humanity. Yeah. Also from the perspective of returns to the investors.
So the 3 prior or 4 prior portfolio companies you mentioned, they were always seeing AI, and this was before AI became what it is today, right? Wherever you go, you turn television on right now, oh, AI this, AI that. But you saw this much earlier. What gave you the fundamental understanding and the belief that you knew that this technology, before it had matured to what it is today, was going to be ripe for having the impact it's having now? What made you see that?
I think from day zero, we were kind of focused on AI, so that was like our sweet spot. And that comes also from the competence of the team. My partner, Vazgen, is computer scientist, himself being previously an entrepreneur, starting other companies, etc. But like his background is computer science. And there's a scientist and basically practitioner who knows very well industry. He knows like ins and outs. So this was kind of the edge that we were basically tackling this industry, and where we could really not only give some business value, but also fully understand what's happening in the background and where this all is taking. And basically, from day zero, we were focused there. So while there were a lot of other hypes along the way, for us, it was apparent that AI is going to have tremendous impact over time on productivity. It was having back then too, by the way, but over time, it's going to have even more and more. Some people thought it will be, 20 years, some people thought it would be earlier, but I don't think anyone really doubts that this is going to happen. And we see it happening.
Where do you think we are in the AI revolution? You think we're like the early stages of this, or where do you see this going? Like, do you see this becoming commonplace that our children are using it and it's something that they're doing day in, day out, or where do you see the potential of it?
I think that we are in very, very early days of it. Which by the way, doesn't mean that there is not huge hype right now. So many of these hype companies will be wiped from the business landscape, market landscape over time. But we are at an inflection point, which will take this to a whole new area. And frankly, no one knows where exactly and what transformations this can bring. I can kind of bring some parallel, but from point of view of impact, it's very different in size. But like you can think of it as the cloud revolution. So when AWS introduced cloud, all of a sudden you have a model of software as a service available to start very easy. Right? So in a similar way, now we have fundamental models coming out and being available cloud-like way. And
so we talk about the AI infrastructure. This is just for the listening audiences. There is infrastructure layer, right, which is the big boys. These are the ones that are allowing a lot of the training to happen, the data set collection, all of that component. There's the middle layer, which is the model layer, which now there's open source models, there's private models. This is like the GPTs and, OpenAI's version of it, and Hugging Face and all the models that they have. And then there's the higher layer, the application layer. So you're referencing is the model area right now, and how there's more models coming out and becoming easily accessible for people developing on the application. Correct?
Yes, with one small note here. So there is there are very limited number of players, and I think even more limited number of winners in this game, because it's really very compute intensive. So you need basically data, talent, compute for this. This is very compute intensive, and if you see where talent is right now, you can see that it's like just a few hundred people. Maybe I'm exaggerating.
Yeah. That's a small group of companies and a small group.
It's a small group of even not only companies, but even people,
right,
who have that expertise of dealing with that large clusters of compute. And
the cost of doing that is extreme too. I mean, there's
like it's not
$30 million bare minimum just to be able to train one of them.
Yeah, and like companies invest billions right now. Like these big players invest billions in H100s of NVIDIA. So, and you can see what's happening with NVIDIA stock if you have any. Yeah. So what the thing is, there is this fundamental layer which becomes like kind of commodity. Think about it and comprehend it and absorb the reality. So the reality is running faster than our thought about it, and that's another challenge. How to think about this and what's going to happen. Let's see.
Right. And so your prediction of what you see is just like in the cloud, is that there'll be all these other businesses that are going to support that, all the applications that are going to be created. And then, so on the B2B side, there'll be businesses supporting the B2C businesses that are taking advantage of the models, right? Did I summarize that correctly?
Yeah. And in between, there will be a lot of opportunity windows for the areas that niche areas where general fundamental models are not covering yet.
Okay, so there'll be like an opportunity for fine-tuning taking the general models, fine-tuning it, and having specific use cases that could potentially be operated.
Yeah. So I mean, I assume that at the end of the day, like hypothetical GPT-10 will cover like order of magnitude, many orders of magnitude more things. But will that happen? When that will happen, it's not yet clear. And there is like really good window opportunity to develop niche solutions.
Yeah. Do you see an opportunity? And this I ask you because I'm actually genuinely wondering what will happen in regards to the data that's used to train these models. Do you see an opportunity of people realizing, hey, me just having it on the web is probably not a good thing because now it's helping train this model. Maybe I need to lock down some of my data, and the web transforms, but being the way in its nature that it's always been so open, to being a little bit more closed, and certain data elements is not easily accessible. Do you see things like that potentially occurring, or?
On the level of consumers, I don't believe in that. Like if you think of it, why Facebook still exists, right? Or businesses like that basically know everything about you and you happily share that data with them. So so on consumer level, I don't think so. But on large enterprise level, where there is really scarce data, think of, for instance, biotech.
Got it.
Which you can't find like in no public database. It is accumulated in these bigger enterprises. So even banking, etc. Although a lot of the financial information is available online, but there is also a lot of proprietary information that's basically not available for public. So for those type of industries, data is their asset, and apparently they are not going to put it public so that someone can train on. And this is, by the way, an opportunity. So you can, in between these lines, there will be a lot of companies
that help these large enterprises actually fine tune their data on their own on-premise or whatever it might be, so it's secure and safe and all of it.
Exactly. So this is one thing, but frankly, I believe that over a long time, let's say I think it's public that PwC announced partnership with AI for some collaboration for their practices. Then there will be more of these type of collaborations where one of these big companies like OpenAI, focusing on fundamental models, will have access to this type of data and will gain even more edges on what they can do at fundamental level as general artificial intelligence.
Got it. Do you see a point, and this is more on the consumer side now, and like, do you see a future where your model or at the consumer side, you've trained this bot that is fine-tuned to you. So now this bot really understands you and is communicating with other bots or is doing action. Do you see that evolution occurring? So you can tell it, hey, go ahead and book my trip, buy my ticket, get all my reservations done. Google has tried to show it in their I/O releases that, hey, we can get to that future. Do you see that as a reality? And do you see that as, no, I don't envision to get to that level of extremity?
Oh, I think it's not extreme at all, basically. I can say what I see, actually. I think what will happen is we'll have chips integrated into our brain that will offload some of our compute, let's say brain compute, into cloud, and basically process some information for us so we can be more efficient. I'm not inventing here anything. That also Musk's vision,
right?
And basically, I truly believe this in the sense that the capacity of AI over time is going to be really very, very, it is going to be very powerful. The only way you can, as a human, compete with it is not even compete, but just talk to it. Let's say, I don't know, to communicate with this system is you being somehow empowered. And that empowerment is probably going to happen like that. Now, problems like scheduling or let's say function of executive assistant. By the way, that's a problem. I'd love it. If there is any founder that is solving this problem right now, I want to talk about it.
Especially if it shows up in your calendar automatically.
I mean, that's a problem. I would maybe in some other universe, I would focus on solving that problem because it's really pain. But that aside, this relatively simple things, I don't think they are very far from us.
Got it. So part of, I love your vision of the future, and I love where you see the potential of AI and where it's kind of headed. It's amazing that a lot of the companies that you've invested in and continue to invest are based out of Armenia. Why do you think the Armenian ecosystem is, so adept at understanding deep tech or understanding this technology early on? And why are we well positioned to be able to more or less see the potential of it well before others did, and some of the companies that have come out of the gate from it? Well, why do you think that?
I think many people don't really realize what Armenia is, and by the way, especially also people in Armenia too. Armenia is in de facto extension of California when we talk about technology. If you are a founder in Armenia from day zero, you have to think, okay, where is my market? And by the way, for those who don't know, it's just 2-3 million population. So you can't focus on local market there. Okay, so the only option you have is to think going global. And there again, the only option you have is California and wider United States. Why? Because there is very powerful diaspora there. There are more Armenians in the United States probably than Armenians. And people with high positions in different areas, etc. So, for instance, like we work with so many companies, with yourself too, right? So, how that works? That's the, let's say, Armenian unfair advantage. Now, this is one thing. The other thing, because of this, it's not only founders thinking about the United States, but also from the United States. If you look, we have in Armenia Synopsys, AMD, Siemens, Cisco,
NVIDIA now, NVIDIA
recently. So almost like all bunch of very powerful good companies doing very solid R&D in the country, which is again thanks to diaspora. And also the startups that we were discussing and we invested, it's not just purely Armenian companies from Armenia coming doing business out of Armenia. So there are some companies that we helped, we and wider diaspora, and then others helped to get to the US market. But also there are a lot of very sophisticated companies that started in the United States and moved their R&D to Armenia, which makes a lot of sense economically, because like to start something in US, it's like $1-2 million. Whereas if you move it to Armenia, it's 250-500. It's one other story at very early stages. So, I would give the credits to the link of with diaspora and basically wider United States. And then when you are organically linked with US, then everything happens here. Like the US is the leader in innovation, and therefore we are just connected with the direct wire to this cutting edge.
Got it. So you see, and that's part of the bridge of what you've done with a Hero House, right? So you've established sort of Hero House in Glendale, and then you have a corresponding one in Yerevan, and you've kind of been able to bridge the two. Is that
exactly? So if someone from Armenia now comes to SoCal, to any area, it's a well different story if you compare it to whatever would happen like before COVID. So, and then it's not only us. There are, for instance, High Tech Network did a great job before that. Nina Acharyan, who is partner now at Index Ventures, she was doing a lot of events, bringing top Silicon Valley folks to Armenia. So there are a lot of things happening. Institutionally, Smartgate's ecosystem right now is one of the most advanced that basically secures this bridge for founders.
And let's talk about your ecosystem. You have the Armenian Startup Academy, you have Hero House, you had the Traction Program. I mean, you guys do a lot of amazing things in the ecosystem. How did you envision that? Was it you just did one and the other, or was it like, no, we need all of these parts, and the culmination of these parts is what's going to make this one?
Yeah. So let's think of this. Let's go back to our initial conversation. So we invest pre-seed, and we need to follow time, right? So and then how you can do that? You can do it both through informal ways, but also formal ways. So our different programs like Gateway to California here in Los Angeles, or Armenia Startup Academy there in Armenia. Like this kind of programs are structured ways of working with entrepreneurs and tracking them. So you work, I don't know, probably with 50 plus companies from Armenian Startup Academy. And you see week after week, you meet with them and you see is this moving or not really? Is this going to work or not? So these are all these are indicators and are helping us.
All the founders of Startup Academy that listen to this, you better be.
Actually, yeah, but then it's another important thing here is you evaluate someone not by wasting their time, but doing your best to give value to them. Right? So this process of Startup Academy is a process of evaluation from our side, but also we do really work for these companies and basically try to give them something. So it's a win-win anyway. So even if we don't end up doing any investment, at least we know that we didn't waste their time and they had some benefit of working with us and mentors, advisors, etc. That's
got it. Where do you see the gap in the Armenian ecosystem now? What do you wish that existed?
So as science and engineering driven company investor, I would love to see more science, mid-layer science in Armenia, so more projects on that end, which would help us to bring more innovative startups to Armenia for R&D purposes. And link it again, and it's going to be win-win for those teams. It's going to be a link to the most advanced R&D that is happening in the US. But on the other side, for the teams in the US, it's going to be a very, very, especially in the initial phase, very, very capital efficient way of moving forward. So I would love to see more science, more innovation, more talent in Armenia.
Amazing. And given that, and I know you're not a person that just sits around when you see an opportunity or a problem, what are some of the things that you feel you can help develop to facilitate?
So there are some things so first of all, you can't do everything, right? So you have to concentrate. There are several initiatives that are, I think, very important and kind of supporting any way practically can, whether it's the project of setting up an AI institute in Armenia, Institute for Autonomy Research and Robotics, or Excellence Center. There is an initiative very, very bright initiative for supporting, basically educating Armenian government and population about the importance of science. I would call it like that. Maybe the organizers have some other definition, but like this basically very important mission of bringing science into the agenda of everyone. That's very important thing, and I always love to contribute to that initiative. So anyway, we can basically be part of building all this layer of science, thicker layer of science in the country. I'm always in.
Amazing. Well, Ashot, thank you so much. I want to give the listening audience a way of being able to connect with you. What's the best way for them to reach out if they want to talk to you or connect with you? Is it on LinkedIn or?
Yeah, LinkedIn is probably the best way, and ideally with some introductory message.
Perfect. So anyone listening in and really wants to connect with Ashot, I'll make sure I have that in the show notes. Ashot, thank you for taking the time today. I know we talked about a lot of things, some in your past, present, and the vision of your future. I really love delving into AI and how you were able to see that with your partner Vazgen and invest in some of the bigger names in AI at the early stages of it, and being the first check. And that's pretty impressive. And how you look for startups and movement and traction in the early stage with the ecosystem you've built, and more importantly, the future of where you see all of this going. So thanks for joining us today and sharing your wisdom with the listening audience.
Thank you.